You don't burn out from giving too much of yourself. You burn out from giving yourself to things that don't matter.
Ooh.
If you feel drained,
you already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Blah. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. You are the prize in 2025. You are the prize in 2025. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. Hey, if you haven't, I'm just saying, you might want to cop the merch. It's fire, man. It's fire. But we back with another reaction, man. We got something different, man. Why are people feeling so burnt out this year? It's a lot going on this year. 2025 has definitely been a very eventful year, and we're going to get into it. So you make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. Don't forget, share this with the last person you text in your phone, and hit the like button, man. Just hit it for the algorithm. But let's go ahead and get into a Fire Squad. What's popping? Let's get it.
And so they wanted to see, the study was what kind of work correlates with increased rates of depression and anxiety disorders. And they found two conditions that raise the rates of anxiety and depression. They literally the kind of jobs that make you sick psychologically. Really? And those two conditions are high expectations coupled with low control.
Coupled with?
Exactly, low control. So high expectations and low control. If you have high expectations and high control, no problem. People rise to the occasion. But when you have a job with high expectations and low control, that's burnout. Why? Because it's the lack of agency. I'm expected to do all this and I can't, right? I'm trying. But as much as I do, I don't have enough agency to meet these expectations.
Ooh.
According to psychology, people who sleep for 8, 10, sometimes even 12 hours and still wake up tired aren't always dealing with physical exhaustion. They're often experiencing something called emotional burnout, a kind of mental fatigue that rest alone can't fix. The body may be still, but the mind never really turns off. It's lying in bed for hours, but waking up feeling like you ran a marathon in your sleep. It's needing naps after doing nothing. It's not about laziness. It's about carrying thoughts you haven't spoken out loud, feelings you haven't.
It's about carrying thoughts you haven't spoken out loud. How? Everybody should be in the comment section like this, hand raised. Everybody got thoughts that they carry that they don't necessarily speak out about. That's crazy.
Had time to process, and worries that play on loop even while you dream. Psychologists explain that when your nervous system is stuck in survival mode for too long, rest becomes shallow. Your body rests, but your brain keeps scanning. And no amount of sleep can restore what emotional safety never gave you. That kind of tired comes from pretending you're okay for too long, from showing up when you needed to slow down, from being strong in places that didn't feel safe enough to be soft. If you've ever slept for too long and still felt drained, comment relatable and share it with a friend who might be dealing with the same thing.
Do your own research.
you don't burn out from giving too much of yourself. You burn out from giving yourself to things that don't matter.
Ooh.
If you feel drained,
Hey, this right here gonna be, oh man, this is gonna be different right here. This is gonna be different.
don't just ask, how many hours am I working? If you feel drained, don't just ask, how many hours am I working? Ask, what am I working toward? Cutting hours might help temporarily, but finding meaning changes everything.
Absolutely.
Because exhaustion is survivable. Meaninglessness isn't. You can bring meaning into your work. You can bring energy into your work. Find something that you can be curious about. Find something to bring passion into the workplace. You don't have to have the perfect job. You have to bring passion into the workplace.
That was good. That was good.
How to actually recover from burnout and why rest isn't the answer. So you've taken time off from work, you have decided to take some more rest and to just slow down everything, and you're still finding yourself absolutely exhausted. The chances are that you're actually suffering fully from burnout. Because burnout isn't just about being tired, it's actually about your body being in full survival mode. So if you could sleep for a week and after having lots of rest, you're still feeling absolutely exhausted, you need to know that rest isn't the same as a recovery. And this is because your body is in what we call fight or flight mode, and that nervous energy that you've got built up means that you are constantly focusing on the negatives, which means that even when you're trying to rest, your body and your mind are completely wired still. This is where most people go wrong, because they think that rest will get them out of their burnout, where actually you need to get into a recovery cycle, which will help with the process of rebuilding you from the inside out. So what you need to do is actually reset your nervous system, and there are 3 tactics that I've used which you should find will really help you get that first process moving. It might sound super simple, but the first one is just giving yourself the opportunity to move, and that can just be in the smallest sense, getting your shoes on and just stretching, taking a 5-minute walk. You'll find this will just lower yourself from red down to amber and then hopefully down to green. Next is just take some active stress relief, and that can be anything from tensing your body and then just relaxing, or just being mindful, scanning your body and going, what is the sensation, what am I feeling now, and asking yourself if that is a valid feeling that you have. And the last one is setting some actual boundaries that will support your process of recovery, not ones that if you break them, you'll just go back to old habits and then you'll stay in that burnout cycle. So when you reset properly, the brain fog will go, you'll be able to give yourself the opportunity to reset your nervous system, and you'll start getting some clarity, some movement, and start taking some action forward. And this will help you in breaking the cycle and resetting your nervous system. If you found that useful, as always, please like, share, and follow for more. And I've got loads of free resources. If you want to download them, just click on my link. Thank you.
It's crazy because people be talking about the whole burnout thing, and they be saying, you got to get rest, you got to get rest. And they saying rest is not going to be the thing that just helps you. You really got to take that stuff and control your mind. Get your mind to a place where you got to reset, you got to reprogram, and you got to do things that get you out of that in a rut state. And you got to do things that relaxes you. I like where we going with this.
It takes on average 1 to 3 years to fully recover from burnout, so prevention really is better than cure. And there is a known process, stepwise process into burnout that most people are not aware of, myself included, because I didn't know what was happening to me until I hit a mental health crisis. So bearing in mind that prevention is so much better than cure, if you can get yourself before you hit a crisis point, you'll just make your life so much easier. I'm going to talk you through the 5 stages to burnout now, so you can have a think about where you might be at and potentially stop yourself before you end up in a crisis. I'm Dr. Claire Ashley. I'm a GP, burnout survivor and expert. I'm also the co-founder of Bobby Chat. Bobby is an AI that talks you through therapy-inspired techniques on WhatsApp. It's completely free to sign up. Your conversations are anonymous and confidential. Helps you to manage your workplace stress more effectively. Sign up for free on our website. Took me about 6 months to go from being fully functional, living my best life, being really, really functional at work, to being in a total mental health crisis. And despite the fact that I'm a doctor with like 20 years now with clinical knowledge and experience, plus a degree in neuroscience, I had no idea what was happening to me until I hit that crisis point. And it has taken me the best part really of 4 years to get over this. Wow. So if I can share anything that stops people from getting to that crisis point in the first place, I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to do now is take you through the 5 stages of burnout so that you can have a think about where you might be at and take positive steps to prevent yourself from getting into a crisis. Stage 1 of burnout is the honeymoon phase, and this normally happens with new jobs or new roles, but can happen at any point in your career. And this is basically when you are full of enthusiasm, passion, commitment to your work, and you really enjoy your work and you get a lot out of it. But the difficulty with this phase is that you might run the risk of taking on too much and then ending up getting stressed. And when stress becomes a little bit more kind of obvious, that's when you move to stage 2. Stage 2 of burnout is the onset of stress. And this is the stage where you start to notice that there are more stressful days than non-stressful days. And there are 3 things that really characterize this particular stage. They are lack of time for personal needs, seeing your friends and family less, and feeling like your work is the most important thing. You might start to notice some symptoms. So you
less time for self, less time with friends and family, and thinking that work and your job is the most important thing. Oh my God.
Stage 2 of burnout is the onset of stress, and this is the stage where you start to notice that there are more stressful days than non-stressful days. And there are 3 things that really characterize this particular stage. They are lack of time for personal needs, seeing your friends and family less, and feeling like your work is the most important thing. You might start to notice some symptoms. So you might get some physical symptoms, things like headaches, aches and pains, difficulty sleeping, but also you might start to notice like some emotional or psychological symptoms as well. If your stress levels become more constant and frequent, you move to the next stage, which is chronic stress. In this particular stage, your ability to problem solve and to focus and to concentrate really gets affected. You might start feeling a bit out of control and powerless. Your productivity decreases, and then with that, there comes a sense of overwhelm, a sense of failure, and a lot of guilt and shame. And in this phase, your physical and emotional symptoms become much worse. So you might find that you start to become irritable, start to not be able to regulate your emotions so well. So you might be flying off the handle at the smallest things. In this stage, people tend to deny what's happening to them, fully recognize that, and distance themselves from their colleagues and their loved ones. In this stage, people might start to self-medicate, so might start overeating, drinking more alcohol, turning to other substances just to try to cope with the desperation that they're feeling. The 4th stage of burnout is burnout itself, and this is where apathy becomes the main symptom. So that's the detachment from other people, the detachment from your work, the detachment from your own emotions. It's where you start to not care, basically. And in this stage, you're also experiencing critical exhaustion. That means that you're really struggling to keep up with your work. The fatigue will be so disproportionate to the stresses in your life and how much sleep you're getting as well. And I mean, honestly, when I think about when I was in this stage, it was like I'd just been hit by a ton of bricks. It was so hard to do anything because of that fatigue. Of course, in this stage, your head is just going to be a total mess. I mean, I ticked pretty much every single box for a mental health crisis at this point. I had really intrusive thoughts, completely unmotivated. I didn't enjoy anything.
Wow.
No joy whatsoever. I was so low. I mean, everyone is slightly different, but basically just, I'd say, despair really is what you experience at this stage. And then stage 5 is habitual burnout. And this is the stage where you probably are likely to need outside intervention to get yourself better. So either help from a doctor or a psychologist. And in this stage as well, you'll notice it's not just your work that's affected, but it's also deeply negatively affecting your life outside of work and your relationships with your loved ones. Probably have lost joy in anything, any of your previous hobbies, any of the things that you used to enjoy. So those are the 5 stages to burnout. If you're in stages 1 to 3, you'll have a really great opportunity to take steps now to stop yourself from progressing to stages 4 and 5. Because once you hit stages 4 and 5, it's years to recover, years and years. And it can be done. I'm proof. I've managed to do it myself. But if you can save yourself having to go through that, please do. My advice is get help if you can. Therapy really is what you need, and then changes at work. But if you notice that already that you're in burnout or habitual burnout, don't panic, because what I'm going to be doing is sharing a load of resources on here, probably starting next week, I think, on how you can start to pull yourself out of that fog. If you're finding it hard to either take sick leave or to leave the job that's burning you out, or to access a therapist, because as we know on the NHS at the minute, very, very difficult to get the help that you need. So keep watching this space, keep following me. I'm going to tell you everything that you need.
This is some serious stuff right here. Real talk.
Burnout is usually the result of unchecked drive. They keep working because they believe there's some kind of happiness or fulfillment on the other side of that work that they want. And so they're seeking, more often than not, some kind of approval or some kind of story that says, I'm only valuable if I do these things. And that unchecked will lead to burnout. Working really hard in spurts is really important. When you want to become successful in business, I'm not telling you have to work 120 hours a week to be a success, but you better be fucking willing to. In sprints, not as a marathon. It's a season, and I know the outcomes I'm trying to hit.
He said it's a season. Man, look, some people get so caught up in the grind mode that the grind stays for years. And they grind. He's saying you need to sprint. You don't need this ain't a marathon where you just got to keep running at the same pace the whole time. You need to sprint in intervals and then break. Sprint and then break. Wow.
Once we get to those outcomes and it stabilizes, I'll pull back again. I'll go back into a recovery. Where it becomes toxic is when the person literally does not know how to slow down. They will literally kill themselves doing it.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, I've experienced that before. Just hustle, grind. I had to learn how to step back and be like, hey, you need some time for yourself, and that's where self-love always comes from. Self-love is always the key to this channel here. Self-love. You gotta take time for you.
People think, oh, these kids are so burned out, they're just lazy. It's like, no, they're working 40 hours a week, but at the end of the month, they have nothing to show for it. So if you're not making any progress and you look back 5 years and go, damn, I made $300,000 in the last 5 years, or I made $400,000 in the last 5 years, and I have nothing. If anything, I have $25,000 in debt. That's going to create burnout because you feel like you just put in 5 years of work and have nothing to show for it. And we still have people blaming them that, well, the reason you're broke is because of the coffee. It's like, no, it's the 25% inflation that we've faced that just destroyed people's spending power. It's the 30% increase in rent prices where people are spending 40% of their money on rent. You're still being taxed 20, 25, 30%. People just don't have any money. People aren't having kids. They're not being able to start families. People are struggling financially, fighting financially. Relationships are suffering. This is all decline in living standards. You realize millennials with degrees are living with roommates into their 30s, not having kids? How do you have a Thanksgiving in a 900 square foot apartment? How do you have a dog and go play in the backyard and make memories with your kids? I was living in an apartment complex just 2.5 years ago. Tons of kids. They may do, but they're all playing on the cement floors in the hallway because they don't have a yard. Because houses are $400,000. Humans are good at adapting, but there's a fine line between adapting and being taken advantage of, and I think we're being taken advantage of.
That was a bar.
You will get burnt out. Your mind, like your body, can become overworked to the point of exhaustion. For many people, this happens in college or their first stressful job. In order to prevent and reduce burnout, you need to let your mind rest. Just because you aren't working doesn't mean you're resting. Scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, watching Netflix, playing video games, these are often described as an escape from reality. And while I'm not saying these things are inherently bad, they do nothing in the way of actually reducing burnout. Your capacity to do work is kind of like the battery on your phone. The more tasks you do simultaneously or the harder tasks you do, the quicker you'll drain your battery. This is burnout. Turning your brain off by doing one of the activities I mentioned is no different from turning your phone off and expecting it to recharge. Instead, you need to allow your brain to consciously or unconsciously process the things it needs to increase your capacity for work. After that YouTube binge or video game session, does the thought of going back to work seem easier or harder? If it's harder, your favorite pastime is you procrastinating, not relaxing. And
Hey, this is some deep shit.
Hard work does not have any contribution to burnout or mental health issues. Why people burn out and have health issues is because they're not self-aware and because they're insecure. If you're working 14 hours a day, doing the wrong things, all to achieve $1 million to impress others, you will 100% of the time burn out. When you work 15 hours a day because you like it more than any other thing you could be doing those 15 hours, the only thing you're guaranteeing yourself is good mental health.
Shout out to Gary V.
He thinks, yeah, I watched what happened to my parents' career. And I watched what happened to my older sister's career. And they worked very hard and they still got laid off. I was talking to a 25-year-old woman who does some freelance work for us the other day. And she said to me, can you please make an Instagram reel about burnout? My friends and I are just so burnt out. And I just looked at her, I said, you're 25? And I said, you're burnt out? She's just so burnt out. So I said, I don't want to sound like an oldster. But when I was your age, I worked 7 days a week, nonstop. And the word burnout never came into my mind. I love my work. This was what you did. You worked. We loved it. We all did it together. We would have worked more if we could have. And then she said a very interesting thing. She said, but you had hope. And I did have hope. We all did have hope. We believed that if you worked hard, you were rewarded for it. And so this is the disconnect.
Wow. Ain't no hope.
I'm seeing Gen Z talk about life lately, and honestly, I feel it in my chest, bruh. I feel it. Especially the 2000 babies. I am seeing it. Asking, what's the point? What's the point? What are we working towards? Why are we working nonstop just to barely get by? I feel it. It's heavy. And I'm scrolling through the comments, and everybody's saying the same thing. I'm tired. I feel this sense of doom. Nothing feels real anymore. It's not just talk, right? It's not just talk. It's a collective heaviness. And I'm 27, right? I'm an older Gen Z, but still Gen Z nonetheless. And I felt this in high school, right?
Wow.
The idea of working a 9 to 5 and then coming home and just entertaining yourself and then repeating the next day. Back then, it was already something in my spirit rejecting that. And now, more and more of us are waking up and asking, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? The American dream ain't a dream no more. The American dream is debt. It's survival. It's exhaustion.
Survival.
It's wild because millennials feel it. Gen Alpha, they're picking it up. And the boomers, they ain't really talk about it. But now everything's coming to the surface. People are thinking about leaving the country. I don't blame them. I've been having those thoughts myself. Living where life doesn't cost your soul. You know what I'm saying? Oh, hell no.
He said living where life doesn't cost your soul? Oh my God. Oh my
country. I don't blame them. I've been having those thoughts myself. Living where life doesn't cost your soul.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? Living where credit doesn't rule you. Where you don't have to work yourself into a grave just to live decently. You know, and we're up against a lot in this system, right? Let's be honest. Like AI taking jobs. People are already having trouble finding work. Job market ain't good right now. You know what I'm saying? People's benefits getting cut. People in chaos right now. People really going through it, bro. Like I talk to people generally, heart to heart. People are going through it. You know, don't believe everything you seeing. You know, not everyone's out here living the glamorous influencer life.
That's
you know,
real.
you might be doing well if you rich and you live in that life, okay. But for the majority of us, it's not like that. You know, on top of the political chaos, the talks of war, you know what I'm saying, pandemics and all that. It's a lot. See, I was in the middle of Costco the other day, and I got stopped by a lady. She looked like she was an older millennial, and she was asking me about the rice in my cart. And next thing you know, she's like, I don't even really know what to eat anymore. You know, because it seems like everything here is just, we're being poisoned here in America. The artificial dyes and the preservatives. And we're in the middle of Costco talking about it. We confused about what to buy.
Wow.
We don't know what to get. Because it seems like everything's just slowly killing us. Getting us sick and having to go get medical bills that are expensive on top of everything else. We are grieving systems that we never asked for. And then we're just expected to keep going like everything's just fine. I mean, even relationships ain't the same no more. Like, relationships, bro. The internet done shifted everything. It's like nobody's really healing. Everyone's just surviving. I'm 27 and it's hard to even imagine what my 30s are gonna look like. But I do know this. I'm not a pessimistic person, right? I'm a very positive soul. If you know me and you speak to me, you know I like speaking life into people. But when I take an objective look at just what we're dealing with in these systems filled with fear, it is chaos. It is a lot, right? When you really get into it. We're not crazy. We're not crazy. We're just awake.
He was speaking some.
You want to know why people are burnt out? I can tell you. It's a little bit of what you already know and don't want to talk about, and a little bit of stuff you might not know that I'm more than happy to tell you about. So the part we're kind of done with talking about is how, let's say like the last 7 years, it's probably been more, but let's just say the last 7 years have been full of chaos and exploitation and mental exhaustion because you saw structures that were supposed to support you not support you. Most people are done talking about COVID, acknowledging the current existence of COVID, how it was a ridiculous collective trauma we all had to navigate, how when we were stuck inside, we had to do some shadow work that we didn't want to deal with, and how ready we were to kind of get back to normal, status quo, and then having to work the same way we used to work pre-pandemic now. Most people hadn't even addressed like how problematic like the girl boss gatekeep gaslight rise and grind era was, which happened right before the pandemic started. Then we had to adjust the way that we like worked. And now we're in a place where like our jobs are slapping status quo back on things, and we're not ready to do that because that's ridiculous. And we so badly wanted to go back to normal. We wanted to go hang out with friends and eat and drink and do all those things, right? And people did go outside and they tried those things, and then it didn't work. And so when we do our go-to things over and over and over, and they don't feel good like they used to, we go, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Why is this not working, right? Because we live in an individualistic society where we've decided that if we don't do something right, something is wrong with us. I think we have to normalize a few things. Number one, I think collectively, a lot of people have underestimated the impact of like how big and stressful everything that we've gone through is. And number two, we need more than our go-tos. Like our go-tos are good, but when it starts to get a little stale and a little old, we need more things to work so that we can feel better. And by the time people realize that they're burnt out, like you don't really have the energy to like try new things or expand your resources.
That's real.
It's definitely more nuanced than this. And I could talk about this for a long period of time. But that's just the quick and dirty of it.
More go-to.
I was told, and I thought for a long time, that you get burned out from working too hard. And at least in my own experience, what I found is that burnout actually comes from failing and things not working. Momentum is really energizing. The lack of momentum is super draining. And I find that I have infinite energy to work on things that I find interesting and that are working, and almost none to work on things that I either don't find interesting or aren't working. And so I think you see a lot of founders try something and fail and assume that they just can't work hard enough or don't have enough energy or passion or whatever. And that's actually not true. It's just that that thing didn't work. And what you should do is shut that company down, go on vacation, and try again. And many people then find that, oh, actually, when I'm doing this thing that I like and that is working, I have a huge amount of energy and I can get a lot of stuff done. And so when you look at really successful people and say, how do they get all those things done? It's they have the benefit of momentum, and momentum is energizing. And the lack of momentum is really not energizing.
That's very true. Very true.
Burnout syndrome. The first stage is a 12-stage process, and the first stage is a compulsion to prove yourself and to prove your potential. So first and foremost, that means we start to neglect other things in our lives because our work is our life. And of course, we're going to work longer hours. We're going to work over the weekend. We're going to start to neglect the hobbies, the activities, the time with our loved ones because, no, I need to show what I can do. Other people start to identify this. They start to pick up on it. So I don't really see as much of you. You're never at home. Yeah. We don't like this being confronted, so we tend to sort of push back on that and say that you don't understand. Yeah. So there's this sense of denial. You don't get it. You don't understand what my job's like. You don't understand the pressures I'm under. Yeah. So we start to think that this is something that I don't like, these being confronted, my choices, so we withdraw. We start to isolate and think, no, you just don't understand. Yeah, so rather than have to tackle those confrontations, we just isolate ourselves away from them and say, no, you just don't understand what I'm going through. And
it's true, isn't it?
That's tough.
Younger Americans are experiencing what they call peak stress, and they're experiencing it earlier than anyone. A survey of 2,000 adults found most people burn out at around 42 years old. But for Gen Z and millennial adults, now the ages 18 to 44, the highest point of their stress happens much younger, at 25 years old. So when they were asked what's causing their burnout, most people said finances, followed by politics, work, and their physical health. 7 out of 10 agree that it'll only get more challenging to be an adult within the next 10 years.
Wow, this is an epidemic going on.
Most people are burnt out at work, not because their job is hard, but because they have no friends. In fact, I think most of the studies show that people love their job if they have one good friend at work. And even in our community at Mosaic, one of the things I talk about all the time is, I have a person on our team whose entire responsibility is to make sure that everyone's living in community on the staff.
That's major.
And that's his principal job. Because I know that hard work can actually be exhilarating if you feel you have friends. And easy work can feel overwhelming if you're all alone. So I don't know the whole dynamic, but I would say burnout has nothing to do with how hard the job is, but how alone she feels.
Bro, some of the misconceptions about burnout is really crazy being talked about in this video about work and about resting and they like, yo, it's a lot of other things that's nuanced about this situation that people are not talking about. It's not just about working. It's not just about finances. It's about your relationships with people. And if you start to think like in this generation we in, especially this time we in now, the relationships that we have with people are becoming less and less significant because of social media. Like you will go outside and, be at a event or something like that. And a lot of people is hands looking at their phone the whole time because they phone in their hand, instead of being social and actually coming together and being communal. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big factor in what they're talking about as well. Having people that you trust, having people that love you, and having people that pour back into you. How many of those people do you have in your life right now?
So I'm at this point a specialist in burnout. We worked with 500 content creators, and content creators get burnt out, and we're really good at reducing their burnout. Burnout is caused by one thing: extreme effort with a lack of reward. As a doctor, I'll work 30-hour shift in a hospital and I'll be fine with it. That's like 30 hours. Just think about that. I'll go to a hospital on Friday at 6 p.m. and I leave Sunday morning or something like that. This is almost a week's worth of a normal human being's work that I'm doing in, I can't do it in 24 hours, and basically a day and 6 additional hours. This is normal for us as doctors, and we don't burn out. What burns me out? When I have to talk to an insurance company to try to get approval for a medication for my patient. A 30-minute, 45-minute call where I'm sitting on hold with an insurance company creates more burnout than 30 hours of work. And so if you look at the science of burnout, what causes burnout is when someone tries something really hard, is invested in something, and then they don't get it.
What causes burnout in your view?
Yeah, there was a really interesting book that just came out last year, and it was based on a successful article that had sort of blown up on BuzzFeed by a woman called Anne Helen Peterson. And she talked about, the premise of her article, really good article worth searching for, is that the millennials are the burnout generation.
I read this.
You remember that one?
I think maybe you shared it.
Right, there's all these matches, burnt out matches.
Yeah.
And what she said is, she'd encountered it as a journalist. She's thinking, oh, I'm feeling something, I wonder if I could capture it. And she was thinking, is there such thing as errand paralysis? So what she means by that is that she was getting to the end of like these productive working days, and then she would get back to her flat and she would open a bill, or she had something she needed to do, and she just didn't have the energy. This high performing, really successful person didn't have the energy to get those things done. And so she was thinking in her head, is this some sort of weird sort of duality that you can be really accomplished at one set of things, but you can't at others? She started looking into it, and she realized it's not that you're avoiding one thing, you're just exhausted. And her lesson was that anytime we treat our energy as infinite, that's when burnout comes. And we so often do it. We treat the idea that we can work all the time. And the best examples I can give you are the ones where we actually check in on ourselves. So I used to find myself, day job, working at Twitter. I worked at Twitter for 8 years. I used to, when I was especially guilty of this, I used to have back-to-back meetings on Monday. What's the consequence of back-to-back meetings? Your inbox is exploding. It's absolutely overloaded. And so I used to get home on a Monday night, get myself a cup of tea, deal with all my domestic responsibilities, and I would sit there and work and do emails for about 4 hours and just try and catch up with what I was doing. And quite often I would check myself, and about 9 o'clock, I'd be spending as much time changing the music as I would doing emails. Or one long email that's like a 2-pager. Who sends these emails? These criminals sending long emails. But I'd find myself reading this, that feeling where you read it, I'll just read that again. And then read it again. And what you discover, there's science for this. It's called ego depletion. And the people who look into this say that our brains are sort of far more finite, far more limited than we might imagine. Our brains are far closer, if you want a metaphor for it, our brains are far closer to the batteries on our phone than the infinite broadband that we normally deal with.
All right, guys, that was another TikTok compilation, man. That video was very, very, very interesting. If you or you know anybody that has dealt with burnout, what are some of the things that you do or the people that you know do to battle that? Like, what do they do to offset that? Do they make sure they take time for themselves? Do they make sure they get around people that they love? What is it? You know what I'm saying? Because you have to take steps to make sure that your mental health is good, man. I always say self-love and positivity, and I don't just say that for no reason. Self-love is very important. You made it this far, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments, man. Share this with somebody. Share this with somebody who you think has experienced burnout. But till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.